The 2024 NHL Draft Lottery has now been completed. So in today's video, we're going to discuss the results and take a look at the mock draft for the first 16 selections. And that's coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, the NHL Draft Lottery results have now been revealed on live TV. We now know how everything's going and who get to celebrate for the right to draft Celebrini. And that was the team with the best odds, the San Jose Sharks. So the Sharks win the draft lottery. The Chicago Blackhawks, who had the second best odds, win the second spot. So the order has not changed. That's something that it does happen sometimes, but it hasn't happened a lot. Usually there's at least a little bit of movement, but we did not get that this year. So we're now going to conduct a mock draft for the top 16 selections based on the now known draft order. So in the future, we'll be doing future mock drafts, and as time goes along here, I'll make them longer and eventually throughout the entire first round once we know the full order, I guess, which we won't know until the Stanley Cup's been awarded. But for right now, let's hop into the mock draft section of the video. We'll start with the San Jose Sharks, and we'll do picks 1 through 16 to celebrate the Sharks' big win here at the 24 NHL Draft Lottery. So picking first overall, now confirmed, the San Jose Sharks. Macklin Celebrini will no doubt be the pick, as we mentioned before. He's the consensus number 1 overall pick. Solid, complete player. Draws a little bit, and I stress this, a little comparison to Sidney Crosby on some attributes, but more people say he's more comparable to like a Jonathan Toews, complete player, hard compete level and high-end offensive skill. I say he's a Jonathan Toews with a little better offensive output myself, but this kid already has ties to the area, will help transform this franchise along with guys like Will Smith to take him to the next level here in the future. Number 2 is Chicago. They hold a second overall pick, and I have them taking the Russian centerman Ivan Demidov. I mean, the Blackhawks are a patient team, not expected to be competitive for a few years. They can wait. The expectation is that he may only wait 1 year to come over. I've seen some rumors that he may not even have to wait that long. They might be able to get out of his contract. But I say he stays over there for 1 year and comes over in 2 seasons from now. But high-end, highly skilled player, a little rough on the skating, but they can work on that. Demidov to the Hawks. Number 3 pick belongs to the Anaheim Ducks, and I have them taking the big monster defenseman Anton Siliev. To me, he's a defenseman that they don't have. 6'7", well over 200 pounds. Great reach, great wingspan, physical. He's just a really unique defenseman that you don't often get an opportunity to draft. They do have some up-and-coming defensemen that are more offensive-minded, where he's more defensive-minded. So to me, he has the epitome to be like a really solid shutdown defenseman and play really big minutes in crucial times, block shots, penalty kill, and everything else. Number 4, we have the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I think they're going to look upon it as a gift that Artem Levshinov kind of fell in their lap here at 4. He's been at times ranked 2 or 3, but big right shot defenseman from Belarus, playing U.S. college hockey in Michigan. So he may not be long getting into the NHL. I think he's one of the more NHL-ready prospects. Like, he's closer to being ready than a lot of these guys. And like I said, he's a top 4 guy. He's right shot, offensive capabilities, decent in his own end. Tough to pass this up. I know Columbus really could use a top centerman, but it's hard to pass him up. At number 5, we've got the Montreal Canadiens, and I have them taking the next centerman here, Caden Lindstrom. They've already got a ton of defensemen, and as much as a lot of these D are really good, they're coming up here like Bouillon and Perek and Dickinson and all these guys, Montreal can get a big centerman like Lindstrom. That's one of the big pieces they're missing. They don't have the size down the middle right now, and he's got the size along with the offensive abilities. Obviously coming from the Western Hockey League, playing a more physical game out there. He's got the size and the strength. He's faced a lot of injuries this year, but overall, Caden Lindstrom is a type of player that Montreal does not have, and would be a major addition if they could grab a player like this. I know if he's available, I think he would be the top player for them to take. Now, next up, we have the Coyotes logo, but it's Team Utah, and we have Zeev Bouillon being the next pick. They could go in a variety of ways here, but I honestly think they need to grab one of these top young D. They have a lot of forwards, and you can make an argument that you're picking best player available anyway. And at the same time, a lot of the next best players available are some of these young top defensemen. But University of Denver won a championship. Very, very talented, playing big minutes, and could be an absolute cornerstone piece. Has potential to be a top pair defenseman. So for Utah, I think he could be a great player to build their blue line around and be a tremendous choice. Next up at number 7, we've got the Ottawa Senators. They could use a right shot D. I have them taking Zane Parekh. To me, he's the no-brainer for them. He's a right shot defenseman with tons of offensive output. Put up over 90 points this year in the OHL for Saginaw. That's the one area of their team that they're kind of lacking right now. So to me, Parekh is a no-brainer for them as well on the right side. I mean, Carter Yakimchuk is another type of defenseman that would be a great fit in Ottawa, but I think Parekh has a higher upside offensively, so he's the pick. Next up in Seattle at number 8, we're going to go ahead and select Cole Yzerman. This team desperately needs offense. They need a strong winger to play with guys like Matty Beniers, and hopefully Shane Wright pans out for them as well. So they need a young cornerstone winger, and Yzerman should prove to be the top sniper goal scorer of this draft, or at least one of the top 1 or 2. There's a few things about his game that need to be worked on for sure, but this guy knows how to score, which is the hardest thing to do in the NHL. So it's a no-brainer pick for Seattle. Next up, Calgary at number 9. Like I said many times, if he's on the board, they're taking Tisha Ginla. He's not only proven that he's a heck of a hockey player, following in his dad's footsteps. They know his dad Jerome very well. Clearly, they know that Ginla DNA is strong. He is having a heck of a season. His value continues to rise. Just completed a real strong U18 tournament for Team Canada. Ginla is a player who's risen a lot in the draft rankings this year, and to me would be an absolutely tremendous fit in Calgary. An instant hit with the fan base as well, which would go a long way. Next up at number 10, we have the New Jersey Devils. I have them taking Sam Dickinson. At this point in the draft, you're taking the best player available. New Jersey could take a forward here, but I think they'll have a hard time passing up Dickinson at this point. I mean, he may not even be available, depending on how the order goes, but a big left shot defenseman from the London Knights with a great skill set, top 4 minutes. They got some good young D there already, but more of them play on the right side. They do have a few lefties, but Sam Dickinson to me is just too much of an option for them to pass up. Next up at number 11, we've got the Buffalo Sabres, and I have them taking Berkeley Catton. At this point, if Catton's still on the board, he's a tremendously gifted, offensively gifted forward that the Sabres could use. I mean, the Sabres have a lot of forwards, but they do have a lot of good young D already as well. And to me, this pick makes a lot of sense. They could go, if they went for a defenseman, I'd probably go with Yakimchuk here. But Catton's, like I said, he's put up a ton of points, over 100 point season this year in junior. Very skilled player. Some of the young forwards in Buffalo are thriving, and some are still, jury's still out. I think they need to stockpile them here while they can. Philadelphia picks next here at number 12 overall, and I have them taking the right shot defenseman from the Calgary Hitmen, Carter Yakimchuk. Put up over 30 goals this year. He has good size and strength. Playing in the Western Hockey League, it's a little bit of a tougher, grittier, grinder type of game. And Yakimchuk has come through with tremendous praise from his coaches. I mean, he's, and scouts for that matter. I mean, not only can he score goals, but he can defend. Certainly has solid top right shot, top 4 minutes written all over him here. So I think Philly grabs a player like this in this spot in the draft. Next up, we've got the Minnesota Wild, which will be the 13th overall pick. They're going to go over to Europe for this one, take the Finnish player Konsta Helenius. This might be a little bit of a pick that, depending on who you ask, he may or may not go at this point in the draft. Some have him higher, some have him lower. I know Minnesota's had great luck with a lot of European picks. To me, they really need a bit of everything, so they're definitely going to go with whoever they feel is the best player available for this selection. And I think Helenius has proved himself to be a pretty good prospect here and fits in Minnesota. Next up, we have the Sharks again by way of Pittsburgh. This time I have them taking a defenseman, Cole Hudson. Cole Hudson's not going to slip through, I don't think, like his brother did. Tremendously gifted, dynamic defenseman. They got themselves Macklin Celebrini first overall. Why not grab a dynamic defenseman later in the first round with this extra pick? To me, the best thing here is they're both BU type guys. So obviously Hudson's going to Boston University. Obviously, Mike Greer has ties to Boston University. Be able to keep an eye on both prospects, and they're both tremendous players. Next up, at 15, we've got Detroit, and I have them taking Adam Jiricek, another defenseman. Obviously, younger brother of David Jiricek, who was a high pick not long ago. To me, Detroit, with what's left here on the board, is probably going to take a defenseman. There's more stronger defensemen still available than some of the forwards. I mean, there are some good forwards here too, but I think for Detroit, it makes sense to build their blue line. Jiricek, to me, he was injured this year, so some of his numbers aren't quite as good as they could be, but I do think that Adam Jiricek has a ton of potential here as a right-shot defenseman. In the last pick of our mock draft here, 16th overall, belongs to the St. Louis Blues, and I have them taking Michael Brandsegg-Nygaard. Nygaard, to me, is a pretty good prospect. Obviously, at this point, I consider in the draft, you're not getting quite that high-end talent. There certainly is a bit of a drop-off, but to me, Nygaard still has lots to like. Certainly a player that would fit in well with some of the other Blues prospects here. Obviously a right shot forward from Norway, 6'1", 198 pounds, 18 and a half years old. To me, makes good sense based on what else they have here in their system and what's available at this point in the draft. So those are my selections for the top 16. Again, congrats to the San Jose Sharks. Well-deserved. They were certainly the worst team by a good margin this year. Celebrini has ties to the area. Of course, spent time obviously in San Francisco. His dad works for the Golden State Warriors in the NBA. So certainly, a fair bit of familiarity. And it just seemed like it was kind of destined, to be honest. So yeah, congrats, Sharks. The Blackhawks get number 2. They get to pick first last year. So it's kind of fair, in my opinion, that another team gets to go first this year. So let me know your thoughts on my selections, the draft lottery winners, and we'll discuss further down in the comments. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.